out. But yeah, we might jet down and watch some of this racing that is just starting in the men's and women's league.
All right, so here we go. So as we're rolling out of the pens, as you know, there's no drafting in these. These people are riding on their own, even though they're riding in a pack.
Are you
There's
to
no
start,
drafting
Tom?
effect from Zwift. So
I'm
again,
at the start.
This is a true test of
I just
patience
closed Discord, but
and
it's
power.
still going.
But it is still important
4
to start
seconds,
fast,
3, 2,
get into that rhythm
1.
and hold it, because it does help having someone just in front of you that you can follow. It's going to be interesting here is the astute ones who may have seen that this was now a time trial had have gone in and changed their bikes into the default Zwift bike and wheels, because that is something that can be done, and we'll see who's done that. If they were quick enough on the
I'm
ball
going to get
and the
smoked
pen as
now.
to whether they were going to do that or not, but it'll be interesting to see. So as you can see, Stacey Pask, he's setting into a pretty strong power. I know Stacey from road racing, and he's an absolute weapon, so for him this is going to be a good start for him, and we'll see how he rolls on. A couple of big names behind him. Jake Hendricks, he's a very good duathlete. He's a fantastic runner, so I suspect he's probably done a run already before this ride, and then he'll do another one off the bike, I hope. He lives across... Actually, Jake, you live across the road from me. Can you just check my house is okay? I haven't been here for a few weeks.
Oh no. So
But,
we've got so it's a bit of a different kind of style we usually see this with racing. So they won't, it looks like they're kind of drafting, but they actually won't be able to draft. They'll be sort of pacing off each other is what they're going to have to do in the racing. So even though they're not going to be able to have that group dynamic, they will pace off each other. That's what I'd be doing. You can see here the women's race has also started. Men's on the left, women's on the right, and watching Helen Prosser there who's doing quite well in the overall standings from race 1. So that'll be one to watch. Looks like there's just a few going off pretty quickly here. We've got Amy Hollenby and Britt lifting
Sonia
up
Foot,
Britt.
yeah. Well, Britt was messaging me about 5 minutes ago complaining about this, and I said this is her perfect course. She's a time trial machine. She would be absolutely in her element here.
Go, Britt!
She was giving me a whole heap of excuses, so I don't know. But I got my money on you, Britt. I think you're an absolute weapon for this. But as you can see, Sonia Foot started out strong. We remember she started out strong last week and faded a little bit towards the end. So it'll be interesting to see if she's changed her tactics a little bit for that. Looking back down there, I can see Fiona Gallagher. She was another one that we were going to put on top of the favourites for this race. So she's working away. An athlete of mine she's smart enough to know not to go out too hard. So I'm hoping she sticks to that plan.
So,
but yeah, here we are. Yeah, with Helen.
I'll touch on Laura Wood here. I mentioned her last week being a bit of a weapon on the dance floor. Great aerial shot of Laura there. She messaged me during the week to say she thinks she had paced absolutely terribly last week, which a lot of people might have. I actually did that time trial today, and it's not pleasant, that Bologna time trial course, and a lot of people, like we saw, may have gone out just a touch too fast. So Laura was one of those people, but it looks like Emma O'Connor is really pacing off her and staying right on that wheel. Those two may serve them well to stay together for the remainder of this race.
Emma O'Connor's a former elite cyclist, so she knows what she's doing here. I mean, these riders are putting out some big numbers. I mean, those are over 4 watts kilo. I mean, we've got to remember this race is going to be almost an hour. And so if your FTP is 3.5, 3.6 watts kilo, then 4 watts kilo is too high. And as we said, it's going to be a pacing race, this one. Those who have saved the energy to the end are the ones that are going to be going stronger in the last part of the climb. When it does get really tough, it does get steep. So I wonder if they're going to be listening into this broadcast.
Yeah. I will show you what's happening over in the men's race. We've got Bobby Kells. Now, he's a very elite ex-rower, and he has gone out very fast. He's got James Barnes not too far behind, 4 seconds back, with Harvey then, who I know there's a lot of competition with this Ironwags crew. And John Story. I want to talk a little bit about John Story. So he is actually a Olympic rower, so he was in the pairs, so we'll have a look at him here. He's he's going to be pretty good in this kind of a format of just laying down the power for a long period of time. So he's got Brody Medrick and Ben Ruth right behind him. These guys look like they're definitely pacing and trying to stay with each other, stay on that pace.
Yeah, well, I know Brody himself was full of excuses earlier today when I was talking to him, so but I don't read into that. I think that Brody will be much stronger than he's telling us. But as you can see, he's just sitting nicely at that power. I know 4.8 watts per kilo is about his 20-minute max, so he's settling into a pace. It's pretty high here, so he'll probably find himself having to ease off a little bit as he goes. But he's got some big riders coming past him. Alex Heaney, he's an elite level cyclist. Who's worn the yellow jersey at the Tour of Southland, so he's got some big names around him. And as we mentioned earlier, Ben Ruth, he's just gone through. Mark Boseed not far behind him. Mark's probably one of the most patient, careful, learned riders in this field. So if you're ahead of Mark and you're feeling like you're pushing too hard, then you probably are, because I'd be looking at Mark and thinking he's probably sitting at the right power right now. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. But I mean, Bobby is putting it out there. Bobby's got a decent little lead here, and he's got some big names around him. And I've ridden with Bobby in the team time trials the last few weeks, and he's a very, very strong bike rider. So it'll be interesting to see. James Barnes is chasing him down and probably keeping him in sight quite happily here. But I think James, as I mentioned before, he's a very strong sprinter. He spends a lot of time at the back of the pack, saving his legs, waiting to explode. So this is asking a lot more of his body, which maybe he hasn't done before. Maybe he has.
Exactly. Just a reminder who is at the top of the table for the men's A category. Ben Ruth looks like he's sitting kind of pretty there in about 4th place. James Harvey in about 3rd. So all of those top guys just seems to be Bobby Kells sort of hitting above his weight here, maybe a little. Hasn't been top 5 in this group, and we've just seen he's actually been passed by James Barnes, who I've got to pick for the win, I would have to say, for this one.
I was thinking about that. So in the last, obviously things have changed, but James was my pick for the win in the scratch race. Now obviously we've got something different here. We've got an unknown quantity in Ben Ruth. I still don't disregard him in this longer distance, even though he's very new to it. We can consider him to be the Matthew Van der Poel, really. He's come from quite a different discipline to longer form racing, and it might actually be working in his favour. But again, Mark Boseed, I know how strong Mark is, and I know Mark's extremely focused for these races, so I'm still putting my money on Mark. But yeah, I mean, James Barnes, I've seen him do some pretty amazing stuff on a bike. So he's got well set up. He's got the disc. He's got the canyon. He knows this race very, very well. He knows this course very well, and he knows his body better than we know it. So maybe he's just ticking away nicely.
Let's have a look at Taz Self. I remember we mentioned last week they are riding in a very nice little group of 3. We've got Taz Self, Brody Medrick, and Rush there, all riding in a nice little threesome.
Tim Rush, also another former elite, well, still a very strong cyclist, but was a very strong elite cyclist for many, many years. And his brother was the duathlon national champ back in the 90s as well. So there's a great pedigree in that family. And also another guy, Jan Lichbach, who's just off the back of that group there. Jan's actually in my Zwift Racing League team, and he's got the playoffs this weekend for ACATS worldwide. So this is going to be a good little hit out for Jan going into this week's 2 races over the weekend. Yeah, I know Jan's an extremely strong athlete, and if we look at him, he's probably got his dreadlocks. He wouldn't be wearing a helmet. He's always raced with dreadlocks. It's good to see.
Yeah,
but yeah, I like what Brody's doing here. He's just smart. He's riding with these good riders. He knows what he can do. He's just keeping within himself. He's dropped his power back to around the 4, which I think is a smart move, because he's going to need probably 4.5 to 5 going over the top. Jan, it's hard.
There we go, Rob. Direct message to you.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I remember I was in a race once, and someone complained that Jan was a bot
across the line
because he was so strong and so steady.
Segment.
And I had to message back to the field that Jan is not a bot, although the way he rides, sometimes you think maybe he is a bit of a robot. But
oh, that's fantastic. So they're about 7.1 kilometres in. They'll have the sprint coming up, that intermediary sprint stage we talked about. Top 5 across the line, so that's a bit different to what we've done in past years. We've just had basically finish line points. This time we will be getting some bonus points. Goes 5 deep, I think 10 points for first across line in each category. So we'll be keeping an eye out on that. You can see in the map in the top right corner sort of what's coming up. When we see a little green dot on the course profile, we'll know that that green sprint banner is coming up. Just got another rower in the women's field, just coming out of the little hill out of the tunnel. That's Holly Fletcher, and she's got Julia Spark, I think it is, just on her wheel with Emma.
3.9 at the moment.
Just
it's good.
Yeah, Eva, that's it. I remember her from the last series. She was very, very good in some of the races, particularly the time trials as well. So they're all racing pretty well, these women. They haven't obviously let this get to their heads, and they're pushing very hard.
Yeah, and you can see those little red dots in that mini map. So those of you that are watching at home will know that those that are racing will know that when they see a red dot, it's another rider on the course. So they get an indication of how far ahead someone is. Because looking at the time difference, it's not always that easy to figure out what 13 seconds or 15 seconds means. But if you can see that red dot and you can see it in relation to your own arrow, then you know that if you're catching up to them or how far ahead they actually are, if they're around a couple of corners or what have you. But this is shaping up to be an interesting race up front as well. By the looks of it, we can see that it is spreading out quite a bit. There's some 5, 6, 7 second gaps between riders there. So these riders have settled into a rhythm pretty quickly. So that's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. I know I can just see quickly top there, Fiona's sitting just over 3 watts kilo, which I think is bang on where she needs to be. And Longdill, who's a super experienced ultra marathon runner and former. Well, she's still an Ironman athlete. She raced Ironman this year and qualified for Kona, but she's a very, very powerful cyclist, and she's been away from the sport for a while, but now she's coming back, and it's this race is sort of bringing her back into it, which is great.
Oh, that's awesome. And it's I just clicked over to the men's. I see Lachlan Boyle, a friend of mine actually from down south. They've got a very young baby, so good to see that he's managed to get himself out and on the bike. And he's. I told him he had to move up a category, so I'm not sure he's going to be stoked he's in the A group, but there we go. He's looks like he's actually doing all right, I'd say. What do you think about this get up, Rob?
It's pretty standard. I mean, he hasn't put a lot of thought into the bike and the wheels, and the gear's just the default Zwift set, and he's only got a road helmet and white gloves. So, I mean, hey, he's on the bike, which is the main thing. He's doing more than me right now. So, but yeah, no, I know Lockie. I know he should have probably thought about his outfit a bit better for this one, but
I am actually seeing some socials coming in from Sam Mayhew, who is telling me that you need to get on the bike, Rob. That you can definitely commentate and be on the bike at the same time. Don't use Melbourne as the excuse.
I reckon, well, I could probably use Sean Blackie's bike, but he's a little bit shorter than me, so that might be a bit weird.
So we're just
I want to see Sam Mayhew on a bike, actually, more importantly, right now. I mean, we had this discussion last week. Things haven't changed.
Looking forward into the lead of this group, looks like it is James Barnes with this alien kit and the throw, but very close behind. We've got Harvey and Bosted. There's your man.
Yeah, this is the selection. This has happened now, and as you can see, Mark is just sitting third. Only a couple of seconds down on James, who's at the front. James is setting that pace, but it's great for these other riders just to sit back and just watch. And like as I said before, Mark's one of those riders that will just sit and wait. He's very, very patient. He's won a lot of races on Zwift by doing this exact thing, and he's done the same thing in real life by just decimating fields on the bike by just wearing them down as the race goes. So I'm liking the way this is looking for my pick. Just quietly, just telling you now, they've opened up an 8-second lead on the next group behind, or Story, who's 10 seconds down, and then Alex Heaney is 15 seconds down, and Bobby Cowles. Bobby's had a little bit of a minor explosion there, perhaps, but that's right. But that selection has really been made for those top three. Now it's going to be interesting to see if they can hold it, or if anyone comes back with them later on.
Yeah, exactly. And just looking at what's happening in the women's race as well, Sonia Foote, who I was mentioning, oh, sorry, that's back to us, well. Sonia Foote, a little bit closer. Sonia Foote, who I was mentioning before, is leading this pack with
Wow.
Amy Hollenby tight on her. So Sonia Foote is an ex-World Cup and World Champion level mountain biker. She said now she kind of gets on Zwift a bit, loves the format. She's got, like I said, 4 kids, so it's just been a bit easier for her to get on that format, which is what I hear from a lot of people. And she's got Amy Hollenby just edging up, coming past her now, so it'll be interesting to see what Sonia does here.
Yeah, these two can really work well together. And as we said before, there's no drafting, but there is still an advantage of having someone right beside you or just in front of you, going the same speed or just slightly harder, so you can keep on the pedals. But now that they've opened up this gap, it's going to be interesting to see if they can hold it from anyone coming behind. It's going to be hard for people to close that gap down. So they've done a nice little job here to get this small lead. But we won. I mean, Amy was nervous about this distance. We haven't seen a lot from her over this sort of format, so we could have some pretty interesting races coming up as they hit this towards the hill coming later on in this race.
Yeah, so we might just get some eyes on your mate Mark Bosted, as he is pushing some serious watts here. Now, Rob, I want to sort of pick your brains a bit here. You can see in the stats in that top left corner that this is showing their watts. That's kind of the white number that's going up and down, and you've got the RPM, that's how fast they're pedaling, and then you've got the heart rate. Tell us a bit about the sort of, what kind of cadence would you want to be riding in a time trial race like this?
Well, it is an individual thing. I know that if you're accustomed to time trial racing, that you will just sit at a cadence and hold it, and so it is really what's natural. Obviously for Mark, he's sitting around that mid 80s to 90s, and he would probably do that all day, every day, no matter the distance, no matter the intensity. Someone like James, for example, he's probably used to riding a more variable cadence because he's a road racer, he's a sprinter. He can sit back in a pack, easy pedal at a lower cadence, just sort of ticking along, and then when he needs to, he can probably ramp it up to 120, 130 RPM. So it is a real natural thing, a real personal thing. But there are some dynamics within Zwift as to the cadence that you're holding and how the game responds to you as well, especially in gradients and acceleration. So there is some thought as to whether you need to be in a lower gear, pushing a high cadence, or a higher gear pushing a lower cadence, as to how it responds to movements in the field. Just something that we should keep an eye on. We've got the 14k sprint banner coming up here, and there's these 3 together now. So this is, if we can stay with this, it's going to be interesting to see how this happens as they cross this line. Remember, it's for the first 5 across the line, but obviously we've got 3 in play here. And as we know, James is the stronger sprinter. Is he going to have to go deep to keep ahead of these guys to get those points, or will he just do what he needs to just to stay in front, or one of these other riders going to pull him back? 300 metres to go, it's getting pretty close to the finish, to the banner, and he has drifted ahead, so we can see he's pushing 5.5, Mark's pushing 5, Mark's coming back at James a little bit, so we can see the banner right in front of us. Oh no, they go around this hairpin first.
Corner,
Yep. So they're winding up. They're probably 400 metres from the line now. I think it's 14.4k we hit it. So James has done a little job to get a small lead there, and now he's just going to be holding on to it. But Mark, you can see he's chasing him down a little bit. They're sort of going watt for watt at the moment, but Mark's a slightly heavier rider, so it will benefit him on the flat if he can get up on that gear and get that cadence going, get those watts out, and he will travel faster in the game. And we can see he's just sitting on 5. James is just on 4.8, 5. He's very, very close. I think James is going to safely do this. He's got a 2-second lead. Mark should be able to stay ahead of James Harvey here, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But James Barnes may have had to go a little bit deep to do this, and how long can he hold it? James is an extremely good time trial team time trial rider. He rides in the Innovations team, and quite often they're winning the Premier League races week in, week out. So this isn't foreign to him. He can do these sort of rides very, very well. But it probably isn't a specialist discipline. He's probably more of a sprinter. but you can see the banner in the distance there, and yeah, James Barnes is going to take those points
For
quite
sure.
nicely.
So, yeah, for those new to Zwift, you can see just a green highlighted line on the road there. That's the start of the sprint segment. And then its first 5 across line will be getting bonus points. So that definitely looks like we've got the top 3 sorted. It's going to be a little tighter between 4th and 5th with John Story and Heaney there. But that would definitely be the top 3 who we've seen cross the line there. So congratulations there to James Barnes, who's taken it out well and truly ahead of the other 2.
Yeah, and he just set up a little bit towards the end there because in terms of time for that sprint segment, Mark wasn't far behind, and James Harvey wasn't far behind either. So James Barnes did what he needed to, got a lead, maintained it, and held it. And Alex Heaney actually went through that segment faster than James Barnes did. So some interesting dynamics coming through with this racing. I'm quite enjoying this.
It's very different, isn't it? So I can't say I'd be enjoying it if I was out there. I don't know if this is quite what I'm suited to anymore, but we've actually got the women's sprint banner coming up as well. So we've got Emma O'Connor. So she's kind of come out of nowhere, I think, to be leading this now. This is amazing.
She is riding really well, and she has that pedigree of being an elite athlete, and her husband, Dr. Will O'Connor, he's a sports physiologist, so she's probably got the best training environment. She's had the cooling vest on all afternoon, I'd say. She's been doing the absolute optimised warm-up. She's been sorting out the nutrition as she goes into this race, and this might just be perfect for her. And she's coming up to this banner now. She isn't going to be contested.
No, that's a definite strong win there with Amy about 4 seconds back now. Is this? Because Amy was leading for a little while then. We've also got Piddle coming through in 3rd, who's moved ahead of Sonia Foot. Maybe Sonia moved a little bit too early. That's a clear 1, 2, 3. Little tight there with Sonia Foot maybe dropping even back further to Prosser, who's hitching very fast. But it looks like Sonia's cottoned on and has picked up her speed a bit, as we see O'Connor here just about to come through the banner there to take out the sprint bonus points for the women's A race. So we've also got categories B, C and D racing. We're following the A's for tonight's coverage. We might try and see if we can get eyes on them as we get closer to the end. Usually we have to kind of click through once the A's are finished, but we'll try and do that as we move on through.
Yeah, I know there's been a lot of talk in that B category, and there's been some big calls being made by a lot of the riders, so it's going to be interesting to see how that comes through. I would say though that a lot of the calls were being made when it was a scratch race, and there might be some retractions in some of those statements now that it's a time trial. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. One thing that we're going to find is that there's probably going to be some upgrades from this race, because a lot of these 20-minute power numbers will be blown out of the park. And here we are with Ben and Jan riding together, teammates.
Let's see who's there now.
Zwift racing
on the 20 metre.
So, they're certainly
2 of them on 4
with each other. They would have raced again together in the past, so it's good to see.
Yeah,
then there's 5 cryogen races in this category in this race.
That's a lot. So we've got 16 kilometres in, so it's about a 36 kilometre race, so they're almost nearing the halfway point in what will be a hard night out in the office. I hope they all get a good sleep after this kind of racing. We're just seeing Clark there pulling up behind Ben Ruth. So Ben, very, I would almost say, surprise performance last week.
Yeah, surprise performance. Yeah, I mean, he's never been much of a cyclist in the past, but I mean, you can't hide from the fact
hard
that
20 minutes.
He's won multiple national track titles, he's won marathons, he's represented New Zealand multiple times in athletics, so, Zwift isn't a skill-based sport, it's an engine, it's a fitness test, essentially. There's a little bit of skill to it, but if you can turn your legs over, and if you've got the lungs to power it and the heart to do it, then it does work well for these sort of athletes. And we have seen runners come over to Zwift and perform very, very successfully as well. So it's exciting to see. I'm really glad that Ben has made this move, because I knew him as a cross-country runner, and now I know him as a cyclist, which is cool. I wonder if he'll do an Ironman one day.
Oh,
I'll
that'd be
probably get a message
fantastic.
from his wife. I'll probably get a message from his wife now that I've put it out. Just tell me don't put the challenge out to him.
Exactly.
But we see Craig Clark there, and just moving up into that pack. Now Craig's a great athlete. He was in the sport in the mid '90s when Cam Brown was dominating through those years. Craig and Cam used to go to school together. Craig's he's a policeman, works in South Auckland. He's run ultra marathons. He's training for an Ironman. He loves Zwift racing. His daughter's also a track runner, so we've got some excellent athletes in this race here, which is good to see. And these guys are riding really well together.
I'll just mention what's happening in the other categories. We've got, if you are watching and you want to follow your riders from home, just log into Zwift Power. So we've got everyone on Zwift Power now, and kind of treat it as it's like your timing transponder. So this is where you can see all of the live data coming through. So in the B category, we've got Tom Burgess, who is leading that B category. He's out in front. Relatively close behind is Fons, and followed by Nathan Peterson, Grant Tuffy, and Stuart Highway. Hamish Robertson, a semi-elite cricket player, looks like he's about 5th or 6th there. So that's the B Cats. We've got the C Cats. Kieran Moore, I think he's having a great race with Rob Ear, and second. He's pushed himself up from the D category, which was nice to see. Christoph Pinnell in 3rd, Kevin Barker in 4th, and Caleb Stevenson from Golden Axe, Walter's crew, in 5th. In Battle of the Granddads, I feel really sorry for my dad, I've got to say. His first Zwift race, and he's doing a 36k time trial. I'm not going to hear the end of this.
I am David. I'm watching my 20-minute.
Looks like he is maybe not ahead of 83-year-olds. So just at the C, so we've got Battle of the Granddads. I know it looks like my dad is sitting there at about 10th place. But leading out the Ds, we have Paul Davidson. Looks like we've got a C cat rider in there, so they'll end up being disqualified. But Paul Davidson in 1st, Jaden Walker in 2nd, Jeff Roberts in 3rd, all just switching around as they're kind of moving around positions at the moment. And Sean Houlihan, I just saw there. I was getting messages from him today. Good to see he made it out. He's sitting sort of near, probably around 15th place.
Wow, that's fantastic. There's some names there that you were calling out in that B category race, which is interesting. I know Nathan Peterson, one of them. He's a good friend of mine, and he's a fireman in Canterbury, and he's probably been working hard to try and help with the flood relief over the last couple of days. But he messaged me earlier to say that he was able to get on and race, which was fantastic. But as is with Nathan, he was full of excuses. But now I don't believe him. Not the way he's racing at the moment. Tom Burgess, the ultimate B Cat rider. He just skirts on that A category so well. He's so skilled at that. He lives in the Bs, and he's an A and B in a B clothing. He's one of those athletes that can just knows exactly how much effort he needs to put in, and he'll
all of it.
Amazing.
I put in all the effort.
He'll still be a B category. He's just a great athlete to watch. He's so strong, so committed. I remember a few weeks ago he did 5 team time trials in the space of 24 hours, which
Wow.
If you've done one team time trial, you know how hard they are. So to do 5 of them in a day was quite a remarkable effort. And he's Everested. He's done virtual Everesting. He's done real life Everesting. He's done it all. So good on him.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, Rob.
I hope he gets an upgrade today.
Seeing some messages come through the socials, I just want to mention Lydia Myers. So one, she's let us know there's no power-ups, so just to make the race that much harder. No one is going to have feathers out on the climb. But Lydia looks like she is dominating the women's C category at the moment, leading that out. And I just want to mention, I actually raced with her today, where she also dominated the C category.
Wow.
I'm now a C cat rider, in case anyone doesn't know. I'm 6 months pregnant, so racing not quite at the level I used to, but she has already raced a time trial at 11 o'clock this morning, and it was the Bologna one, so I'm really surprised that her legs can push her out for another win, and she'll be pretty devastated. She's got to sit there and do another time trial, but absolute kudos to her. I mean, if I could send everyone a spot prize, I would, but time to mention probably Domestique is providing the spot prizes tonight, and they'll be giving away, for anyone out there who doesn't have a smart trainer, a 12-week free rental of the Explorer Noza smart trainer, and yeah, we'll let you know.
Amazing.
We'll let you know the spot prize winners later. I'll also let you know the race 1 spot prize winners too, who are able to get that bike computer as well. But there we go. We've got some pretty very respectful racers out there who are just. I'm loving seeing this. I mean, it's not ideal, but fantastic. And looking at the women's race here, this group of 4 just doing really well together, I think.
Yeah, this is exactly what we want to be able to see. You know, we know there's no drafting, but there is that benefit of riding with someone next to you or just in front of you that keeps that pace on. And as someone eases off, another person will ride to the front. They'll push that pace a little bit more. It'll keep everyone going, keep them all together. So these guys are riding a really nice conservative effort, I feel. And I think there's going to be some movements through that pack as they get to the bottom of that climb. We're going to start seeing some people coming through. I've just had text confirmation from Ben Roof's wife that he cannot swim, so I think the Ironman scene will be safe for a wee while anyway.
Oh, nice. So this women's racing, just so people know, a little bit different to how the men's categories are done. So with the women's racing, the A's and B's are all in a group called A, and the C's and D's are all in a group called B. So we're looking here at a mix of A's and B's. And I did just want to call out Anna Longdill here, who we can see in this group. She is leading the B category for the women, so she's having a fantastic race. You can just see her about 15 seconds behind Brett Litton. But yeah, great race from Longdill here, because I'm not sure where Nick Sproul is. Doesn't look like she is in this group.
Nick's name was there earlier, so obviously as the race has got on, she may have just drifted off a little bit. But great riding from Anna. It's fantastic riding for her. But Sonia Foot's obviously still ahead, and Sonia's in that B cat. If you go back to that tally, Sonia's name was 5th, but she's actually ahead of Anna still on the road. So
yeah, that's going to be tight.
So we've got a race on our hands. It's going to be a good one to keep following.
Yeah, we sure do. And we've also just seen here Natalie Smith. Now, she's a Tri-NZ board member, chairman of the board, actually. So she's out here and doing pretty good. A little bit, as we will find in no woman's land, between Gorman, who we can see is 3rd currently in this division, and Eva Nugent, who looks like she may have gone out a touch too fast.
Yeah, possibly. It's again, it's one of those things. Suddenly, these athletes have had to change their game plan, we're seeing some interesting things happening here. I'm just getting confirmation that Nick Sproul is actually further up the field than we can see in this list. So that BCAT race might be turned on its head a fair bit.
Yeah, could be. That's great riding from Nick Sproul. So we're talking about Longdill there. There she is. We've got eyes on Nick Sproul.
Yeah, look at that.
She's pacing well off crosser there, so Nick Sproul may end up moving ahead of that B category. Fantastic performance, Nick. She's in a great hot pink kit there, very easy to pull out.
10 seconds on Sonia Foot, so that's a race on there. And she's in 4th place overall, so not mucking around.
Yeah,
She's a very strong time trial.
Let's have a look at eyes on Bosted here, leading the field, but look who's right on his tail and not letting him go.
Yeah, and this is the race of this is going to be fantastic to watch there. Probably 5 k's from the bottom of the hill, 7 k's from the bottom of the hill. So Mark's got this game plan where he's just going to sit at the power and hold it. James is obviously just going to pace off him and just keep an eye on it, and once they hit the top of that climb, we want to see that sprint happen, because that's going to be really interesting to see who's there at the finish. They've cleared out, they've got 5 seconds on Harvey, who's got about another half a minute on Alex Heaney, so the top 3 are pretty safe there. We can see Brody Madrick's riding with Tim Rush, so he's not actually too far behind. Brody might move up to John Story and Alex Heaney. That top 5 of that race is not, it couldn't move anywhere. I think the first 3 are pretty safe, but 4th, 5th, 6th, that might change quite a bit as we go.
I am seeing quite a good battle here too between John Story, who may be actually just gaining a bit of time here on Heaney just ahead, although I think Heaney's figured that out and he's pushed up his power quite significantly. But really impressed here from John Story. He's a relatively new Zwifter, but he's one of those ones who's sort of come over from another sport, like we said, Olympic rower, unbelievable, has come into Zwift, and I'm friends with him on Zwift's companion app, and I see that he's Zwifting almost every day. So just obviously getting to know the platform pretty well.
Well, yeah, I mean, rowers do so well in this. Again, it's the same thing with the track runners, where it's an engine that just has to drive a computer game, and it's amazing how well rowers can go. But we know that Jason Osborne, the German ex-Olympic rower, is the world Zwift race champion. So that's an indication that the elite rowers can take to the sport so well. They know how to suffer. They've got the engine. They know how to go for a long time. It's just that they're going forwards instead of backwards in this situation. So I don't know if that's unfamiliar to them or not, but they seem to cope pretty well. Maybe they've got their bikes turned around the other way and they can't even see the screen.
Maybe, exactly. Just a quick update on the B-Cat. Tom Burgess is about 20 seconds ahead of Fons Patchen, who is about, it looks like about 45 seconds ahead now of Stuart Highway. And your mate Nathan Peterson, equal between Stuart Highway and Nathan Peterson.
That's going to be interesting. Now, Tom will be claiming to not be a hill climber, so I know he's probably going to get a bit of a lead on this. He's a big, strong lad. He's a very, very powerful lad, but unfortunately, the 4Ks of hill at the end may not suit him quite as well. But looking at Fons, what does he weigh? He's coming in at he's the same weight as Tom, so it could be an interesting punch-up as we get up the hill. Nathan, 71 kilos. He will probably move ahead of Stu. I'm not too sure. I know Nathan's a pretty punchy little rider, and when he gets those hills, he loves going uphill, so that might work in his favour. But yeah, that race is not over yet either. This is definitely one for the taking.
For sure, and I might actually just cut over and tell you a little bit what's happening in the women's C and Ds, who are all racing in what we call Bs. Lydia Myers, who I was talking about before, she is leading the way. Quite close though, she's got Angie Wall, who sent me a bit of a SOS message during the week that she had well overestimated her abilities, and please put her down a category. So she is sitting in second place.
Is that after the category downgrade?
Yeah, she was well within the limits of what she's riding now, so she's all good. Deirdre Lack, she's in third even with Rebecca Spears racing there. Vicky McNaught in fourth, and Rebecca Gifford sitting in about fifth. So that's what's happening in the women's, what I would call C category, because the C's and D's are all consolidated into B.
Yeah. Now, I'm just looking there. I can see Brodie and Tim are now together, and they've got a decent 30-second lead on Tas South. So that top 6 or 7 have sort of cleared out. I think that's going to be quite interesting to see how Brodie goes against Tim Rush. I'd say I think Brodie's a little bit younger. He's probably got a little bit of freshness in the legs, but Tim's a classy bike rider, so that's going to be an interesting one to see. And they've both gone quite smart with their bike setups. Brodie's on the SWX Shib, Tim's on the Canyon Speedmax medium depth wheels, so they've done a bit of homework. They know that a lot of this is a flat race, but it finishes on a climb. I did notice earlier that James Barnes was on a disc, and Mark Bosett was on Zip 858. So that's going to be an interesting thing as well. The disc is obviously going to be a bit of a weight on the climb, but it's going to help in a sprint at the finish. But they've got to be together at the top of the climb for that to be effective. So that's going to be an interesting one to watch.
Yes, we've got our split screen here. We're following Britt Lytton, big
Go,
supporter
Britt.
of all things Swift racing and the Tri-NZ series. And she's on you can just tell from her setup, felt IA time trial bike. Very, very quick. She's just behind Georgia Thornton. I've just seen her sort of catching up a bit. So she could be just trying to gain some time before they hit the climb. So they're not too far away now. They're just kind of rolling over that 26 kilometres. And the climb kind of starts at around 32 kilometres, so they're not too far away. So, like we said, this is what is called in Zwift an afterparty. I'm not sure there'll be much partying, but that means you're finishing at the top of the climb.
No
so
party.
it starts with a long road of flat racing, and then the climb shouldn't take too long. It's about sort of 4 kilometres, so about 6% grade.
Yeah.
Decent, but not as hard as Bologna, which we saw last week.
No, but it's still a couple of those little 12% pinches, which the strong riders or the smart riders will know that you push a little bit harder on the steeper sections and you ease off a little bit on the flatter sections. I see Britt's gone for the matching helmet and sock. Okay, she's done a good job on that. It's not a bad effort. I don't know about those gloves though, Anna. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, anyone who sees
There's a
us
few
on
colours coming in there.
Zwift commentary knows I do not love the mismatching glove and sock combo. If the gloves were just all hot pink, I think it'd be okay, but they've got a bit of blue thrown in. We've just got too many colours going on there, Britt. But she's heard me talk about her kit before. She knows that what I'm talking about. But I've just seen there gained about 4 seconds while we've been talking on Thornton ahead of her. So that could prove to be a little bit of a battle as they approach the base of this climb.
Yeah, and she's not far behind Sonia Foot either, so so that movement through the field is interesting. Anna Longdale's not far behind Britt, so you know there's some pretty strong riders that are beginning to make their way, show the prominence as we get close to this climb, and you know we're 40 minutes into it, so we're really into that, going into the depths of people's endurance now. 40 minutes of steady state pedaling is pretty tough. There's no freewheeling in this. This is not riding on the road. This is pedaling for 40 minutes at a hard effort. So
I hate you guys.
Stronger, tougher riders are as we come closer to the end of this. But as we're only about 5k's from the bottom of this climb for Britt, so she'll be readying herself
Just
for that.
such
She's
balls.
probably making as much time as she can. She knows that. She thinks that she's she's not as good in the climb as she was in the flats, but I actually think I back her in this to go very, very well in this race.
We've got Liam Miller up on screen, so he's, I believe, the son, of Paul Miller. So he's does a lot of work for the events for the club down in Tauranga. So great to see that he's got his family out racing, and he's pushing some pretty good numbers and doing pretty well in the back half of this race.
Yeah, he was an early leader in last week's race that we saw, putting out some pretty good effort. So he's a good young bike rider, good young racer. He's super keen, does a lot of the events around, and it's going to be interesting to see how he sort of progresses through this series. The younger riders tend to be pretty keen and able to put out some pretty big numbers, so they can beat up on the old fellas a little bit, which is a bit unfair.
That's a bit unfair, right? And they look like they're just coming up to that sort of 29-30 kilometre mark, so the men will be approaching that climb fairly soon, which will indicate coming up to the end of this race, which I'm sure they will be very happy about. Even though it finishes with a climb, a lot of triathletes will be good at that sort of sustained climb effort. So we'll just pop through and see what's happening at the front of this race. And there we can see it. Mark Bostier. What's happening here, Rob? Looks like he's absolutely pulled away.
16-second lead. And that's it. That's the strength of the guy. He obviously just wore away at James enough that that rubber band broke, and Mark is putting out some big numbers as we come up this climb. He's pushing over 6 watts a kilo, which is what you'd expect on this sort of gradient. And Mark can do this for a good 9, 10, 12 minutes if he needs to, so he can actually quite happily sit at this power, get up this climb. He's done what he needed to. He's broken James. James has now got James Harvey with him, and so that race for second and third is going to be on. But I think we've just seen the effect of the difference of the scratch racer versus the time trialist. And it's unfortunate because we would have liked to have seen a scratch race, because I think I still would have backed James Barnes to have won this race, but things had to change. I think I might have mentioned Mark Bosid as my favourite in that. I don't know, maybe I didn't. But I'm gonna put
You'll
it out
say it
there that
now?
I did. I called it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now he's got a 20-second lead. You're going to call it. You're going to call it as Mark.
Yeah, I think it's pretty safe. Yeah, but it that just shows the strength of the strong Zwift rider, being able to just grind away and keep pushing. James Harvey's moved past James Barnes now. He's got a 3-second lead. That's
Is that cemented? Do you think that's the James is going to be pulling through the second?
Yeah. Sorry, I don't think James Barnes is going to come back from this. Unfortunately, it's a shame. I know the guy he's a mate, but it's one of those things you just see. It's just the nature of this sort of race, and it's raining as well, which makes it even worse.
Oh,
But he's got a good minute lead on fourth place, so that's definitely safe. And I'm pretty sure he'll be racing later in this week. So now he's probably just going to sit back and
Scott, what's his numbers there?
a little bit for the races still to come. He's got a couple more events this week, I'm sure.
Yeah, we will absolutely make sure that next week is the scratch race that we want to see, because I think we will be heading out into less of a climbing course and more of a sort of sprinting course. I'm just going to double check so I've got it right. All the information on all the courses coming up, plus extra links are on the Transit webpage. But yeah, next week it's the Magnificent 8 course. So that's it's a original Watopia course. There's a couple of little pinchy climbs in there, but I wouldn't say anything massive to speak of. So that'll be a good one to see of how these guys get these bunch dynamics done.
Yeah, it's going to be a fantastic race. I quite like that course, actually. For some reason it's got a bit of everything in it, hasn't it? It's good fun. I've just got a photograph from Mark Bosid of a picture of a can of Coke. So that maybe he's been to the Cam Brown School of Race Nutrition, and that might have been the secret.
Nice. We've also got it's good to see when the races are on the socials too. We've got Britt calling us out that she does think her gloves match her socks. I don't want to brag it to her, they don't, but we'll just say that there. We've got the women's race up on screen now, so they're going through this sort of magical tunnel which takes you from London right through out into the sort of Richmond Park area, if you know London well. And we've got Amy Hollenby. This is for second and third, so we've got O'Connor well in the lead, 30 seconds ahead, but Amy Hollenby in second with Kiddle very, very close behind. So this is going to be a tight race as they approach the climb.
So much.
Yeah, absolutely. A race of the day is looking like a Nicholas Sproul though.
Oh.
Sitting in fifth place.
Absolutely.
Fifth place. Yeah, as a B-Cat racer, it's fantastic. But yeah, Kittle and Hollenby have come together. They can work together on this. There's no drafting, but there is still that benefit of having someone beside you in front of you to keep working. 30 seconds isn't out of the question. It all depends if they can push higher power than Emma is, they can pull her back. But already we can see that Emma and Amy watt for watt at the moment. But that's the good thing of being able to see on the screen what your competitors are putting out, so you can try and push harder than them. But it's easier said than done, because as you can see, Amy pushes harder, Emma pushes harder, and vice versa. So it makes it tough, makes it difficult to break the 30 seconds down.
Out of the saddle.
Yeah, for
And in
sure.
fact, as we say that, it's got it 34 seconds straight away.
Yeah, I can see Emma out here on her lonesome, taking this out from what it will look like. 34 seconds. We'll have
Come on, Stu.
Bridget Kiddle following pretty strong. It actually really does want to sort of make this up. But yeah, it's a pretty, I would say, steady, consistent climb. So they don't really have too many pinch points up the climb. It just does sort of keep going really gradually. And you just got to settle into those numbers, and it looks like Emma O'Connor is doing that. She's got quite a low cadence there, about 67, so she's really grinding away as she hits that QOM marker on the side of the road there in pink. Looking at up to 6% now, so she's just got to settle into this rhythm, and we'll see if Bridget, with some pretty high watts behind, can start pushing into that lead. So we're 32 seconds back, she's gained a couple of seconds there.
Yeah, not too bad at all, really. I've just seen that it looks like Tom Burgess has a massive, almost a minute lead in the B. And old mate Nathan's been dropped by Stu Hayway, so that race for third and fourth has been might have been secured.
Come on,
Going
Stu.
to Stu's favour, but it doesn't look like anyone's going to catch Tom in that B race. So that is good riding by him for the big fella.
Yeah, might cat up from this one. It looks like.
Oh
so.
no! If I know Tom, he'll probably ease off as he gets to the top.
Just
Not by choice.
The men's race spicing up a bit, sort of around that 8th, 9th place. We've
I'm
got
not easing by
Arizona,
choice.
Ben
Thanks,
Ruth
Rob.
here, but quite sort of close around. And we've got Zion May 8 seconds ahead, Brody Madrick 4 seconds behind. So these three are really in the thick of it. They're about, I'd almost be saying, potentially sort of halfway up this climb now. So not too long to go.
Yeah, two Ks to go by the looks of it. Madrick will be absolutely loving this. He's right in the depths of this race. You know, he's coming to the end of it. This is where he likes to suffer. He's inside the top 10. He's not going to get caught. And he's got Ben Ruth just in front of him. That's the sort of motivation anyone needs. And Ben is just riding strong, riding hard. He's got Josiah in front of him again. I think Josiah's from Tauranga as well, so he probably knows each other. And it'll be interesting to see. There's still 2K to go. There's still that flat section at the top to get over. It can be quite a race. Actually, probably more like 3Ks. It's 34.5K at the moment. So yeah, there's still a bit to go yet.
Yeah, it's. I'm just looking at this. It's gone up to 12% there. I said before it's kind of an even climb. Obviously, there is a little pinch, about 2/3 of the way up, and that 12% on a TT bike is going to be pretty.
Yeah.
Brutal.
There's 2 corners that are 12%, and those are the ones where if you got it in the tank, push it a little bit harder just to punch over the top, get next flatter section. But as you can see, Ben's on that 10% now. It's still hard work. Hard work for the heavier guys.
Yeah, I love how, see if I can pull this through from the socials we're getting in. So this was from, hopefully they'll pull across the screen, Barry here, just saying he's wanting, if this is not a scratch race next week, which God help us, let's hope so. He wants us out there TTing and commentating at the same time. Everyone is obsessed with us racing and commentating at the same time.
Well, if Barry can get me home, then I'll do it.
Yes. Awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, it's going to take a lot for me to get on a bike and do this kind of a thing anymore. But just seeing something pretty interesting happening in the women's race. We're talking about Nick Sproul before. Looks like we've got, I think that's Sonia Foot.
Yeah, Sonia's coming up on it.
Right behind.
Wow.
That's, gotta love what Sonia's got going on here as well, just with the black on black on black. She's obviously represented New Zealand before. She knows what looks good on the bike. That's a very stealth looking setup. She's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, and she's on that nice little downhill section of cane to the climb, so there's a little bit of relief, and then they hit the next set again. This could be this sort of climbed up. Probably does work in her favour a little bit being a mountain biker. It's a little bit punchier, and so she's probably happy to get off that flat section and now be into a rhythm section where she can get back into just concentrating on the pedaling. But yeah, Nick's not going to let her get away. Could be a bit of an interesting race on our hands here.
I do want to just pull our attention to Mark, who is finishing off the men's A category race here in the lead, well in the lead, about 44 seconds ahead now. You can see just the banner there. I'll click off him when he gets near the banner so we don't lose the race as he crosses the line, but yeah, fantastic result there from Mark Grosted.
That is an impressive win. That's time trialling as it should be done, you know, steady state the whole way and stronger at the finish. So well done, good effort, Mark.
And they do get a bit of respite because we can see here at the top, this is Harvey looking like he's going to come in second, is they do, it does come down a bit in the elevation, so it looks like it just hits around 1%. You can see the banner in the finish there, the pink banner across the line, and they get a little rest there, 0% now, sort of flat road to the finish.
I was so looking forward to seeing the aero power-ups coming out here, because this is where I think James Barnes would have had the race. You know, he might have had a Ghost, he might have had an aero, but that's where we would have seen 1200 watts coming out, and we want to see those big numbers. So hopefully next week we'll get that.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. I love the scratch racing. It's so fun to commentate. I mean, it's kind of fun in a sick kind of way to commentate what will be 36 kilometres of absolute pain for these guys. And just seeing James Barnes here pulling out some 9 watts a kg. He's putting in a sprint for the line. Next place behind is about 40 seconds back, so he's just doing this for a bit of glory at the end. But third place here for James Barnes, very good in the A category.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That was great though. You know that's it. Just the performance that Mark put out there. That's an Ironman performance. You know, as I said before, it's all about pacing. It's all about getting stronger as you go through. It's all about just wearing your competition down, and he's done exactly that. So there's 3 very, very good athletes first, second, third across that finish line. 3 of the best Zwift races you'll get. So we're lucky to have them racing here.
Exactly. We've got Ben Ruth here who has pulled away slightly from Rush just behind him. That's 2 seconds though. That's going to be a close finish between these two. They're just approaching the last portion of this climb, 36k in, not long to go for these two.
Yeah. Thoughts on Ben's beard and sunglasses in here?
I call it the Santa look. So if you're, I mean, I like Santa. I've got nothing against Santa, and if he wants to ride his bike, then all power to him.
Yeah, I don't know what level he's on, but he does need to improve his bike and wheel game considerably, so that might be the next discussion point. Let's see what he has next week. I know he's mates with Jan Nitbach, and Jan's pretty good with his gear, so he'll probably have him sorted out for the next race. But we can't be having someone so far up the field on a small set of wheels like that.
No, exactly. He's a bit of a unit, and he's going to need to get those deeper dish wheels, but looks like he's well and truly dropped Rush now, 6 seconds back, so very strong result here for Ben Ruth. So it looks like he'll probably end up 7th on the day, so not too shabby for his final standing. So very good here for a runner to hit this level of time trialing.
Well, that might shake the leaderboard up a little bit, because obviously he was leading the A's. So to come in 7th, he would have fallen back down a little bit off that leaderboard. So looking forward to seeing how that comes out.
Exactly. Just looking at the women's race here, very close action between these 3. This is amazing.
Yeah, this is great. So Amy Hollenby is obviously dropping back quite a bit. She was riding further upfield than that, and Sonia's just climbing through them. Sonia's doing a great ride here. So 30 seconds down. Yeah, 30 seconds down with 2k to go. That could come back. She could get up into 3rd here. In fact, she's not even that far behind 2nd really, but she's got to keep, as I said before, she's got to keep putting high power than those in front of her. There's no draft. It's just what versus what. And she's put those other 2 riders away quite comfortably. So it's going to be interesting. There's Britt Litton, who's not far behind them either. So I don't think Britt's going to do all right.
I know, yeah. She needs to see herself as more of a hill climber. It's like she has made up closer. So she's paced herself very well. But I have to say, almost other than Emma O'Connor, who's leading this race by a significant amount, very, very good riding here from Sonia Fitch. She's pacing herself well. I'm not sure if she'll catch up to Jordan Thornton here, who's got Bridget Kiddle. You can just see there. That's going to be close coming into the finish. So these guys have ridden very well. They're in the sort of last half, I'd say, of this climb where it really kicks up. But yeah, Bridget has made some good time on Thornton here. Yeah,
she's actually probably might only just be okay for the finish. So it's going to start flattening out for her. And I think there's still a little bit of time to go yet. It's going to start flattening out, but she is pulling away still. So she's putting out half a watt per kilo more than Bridget Kiddle. So she's probably not going to be easy off to get caught. But she is moving up on Emma a little bit. So we might have a bit of a race on for first here. If she can keep this one going.
Exactly, that is going to be quite a race. She's pulled in a huge amount of time. This is she was about 35 seconds back, and saw her eking out time earlier. Now 20 seconds in, she's riding much higher watts than Emma O'Connor. Emma could have get eyes on her and see how she's looking. She might have just hit a bit of a wall up out of the saddle. Very low cadence, about 61.
Low cadence, yeah, that's an indicator that maybe she's just fatiguing and she can't do the legs over quick enough.
You can actually see Georgia there there, just in the background. See if I can get a little aerial shot. You can just see. So those three actually with an eye shot of each other. And I think Georgia's seen that, and now she can see her. Boom! That gap's down to 15 seconds.
Well, this is a race on here, and we're running out of road. But I think there's still enough for this race to be done because we're still on the climb. While we're on the climb, Emma is in trouble. If it gets to the flat, Emma's going to be a little bit safer. But while it's still 6 or 7%, and Georgia's half a watt per kilo higher in power, that makes the difference. So, and for Emma's sake, keep pushing. For Georgia's sake, keep pushing.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Sandy.
I hate to be in this position if I'm Emma, because you put in all that work, you've got such a huge gap, and now whittled down to 12 seconds. She can see, I think, that Georgia's just catching up. You can just see Emma
There's the
pushing in
finish.
surges,
Almost there.
up around over 4 watts, but you see Georgia following suit with about 4.3 watts there. So she's this is going to be a tight race right to the end. So stay with these guys. Looks like they've only got just over a kilometre to go.
No sprint.
I might just see if
Nothing
I
left.
can pull in the A category women, just to see where these guys are all on the standings, because this will be interesting to see.
Great race, Stu.
If we hit the flat and it's
Push
still
me.
about 5 seconds between them, I think Emma will hold it. If we're still on the climb and it gets to 5 seconds and we haven't got the flat yet, I think it'll go in Georgia's favour. But if Georgia wants to do it, she needs to really up it even more now. So she's 4.5. That needs to be closer to 4.8. And she's getting there close, but Emma is fighting her. Emma's coming back to 4 now. Still on the climb. It's still a crucial part of the race. This
Great race, Stu.
regardless of the outcome, I think Georgia will still lead the table, but Emma will take
Thanks
a
for your
big jump
support,
up there,
Sandy.
maybe having dropped back, Emma's dropping back, Emma's dropped back as well. So we've got
She
a
was
race
just
on 5
quietly
seconds now,
swearing.
and it's on the flat.
Not so quietly.
I think Emma's going to hold it.
Yeah, this
Thank
is,
you.
This is,
That was
And
brutal.
to power up.
yeah, I mean,
Smoked.
she'll be so motivated there. She's sitting in 5th place, as we can see.